afternoon, magic players and card collectors of all kinds. Hope you guys are doing well today. And of course, shout out to all the Puggy lovers and Kaiba lovers out there. Kaiba is not super happy. First off, I'm putting this out on Tuesday afternoon, so I'm giving you a good afternoon shout out. But I will admit, or not Tuesday, Monday afternoon, sorry. But I will admit a little insider info, like I like to do sometimes. I'm recording this super early on Sunday morning, after our live stream last night, and also it rained shortly after our big W this morning, so somebody's not overly happy because he's not going to be able to go out and play much today. So he's just taking it easy and having a nice little nap. Yes, baby, I talk about you. Go back to sleep. It's okay. I take the camera off you now. We actually have some interesting thing to do today. It's been a few weeks since the last one I did, and I kind of wanted to do a response video for you guys today to a video I saw online. Now, I will admit this video is a bit of a lengthy one. He goes on for 30 some odd minutes. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to watch the entire thing with you guys, or I might cut it off partway through. But I found the beginning of his argument rather interesting, so I thought, you know what, let's watch this. Let's crack a few Brothers War packs, because we didn't get into that last night in the stream. Check out the stream to see what packs we did crack. We didn't crack very many. Kaiba kind of got upset partway through the stream. He was really active at the beginning, but then he just kind of, at the end, was like, enough's enough. About an hour through, wanted his daddy to snuggle and have his attention, so we called it quits after that, shortly after that. But just trying to figure out the best way to get it so that that light doesn't reflect too harshly off the pack. There we go, that's a little bit better for you guys. I will be taking that out, of course, to show you the video that I am watching. And, but I just want to make sure that that was set there. This let me go in and out nicer than my last laptop. Ooh, good. All right. I like my new laptop because it has a much faster rate of going in and out. So, we are watching a video called Magic is Becoming a Casino, and Wizards of the Coast Built the Table. It's by a channel called Gone Rogue Games. And the beginning of his argument was really interesting. I watched maybe the first like 5-6 minutes and then I stopped it. So I don't know if he's going to go off the rails partway through, and if he does, we'll see. And I probably could change my mind partway through, but at least for now, I'm kind of on board with him. So let's see what he's got to say. I did because I gotta figure out a way to do a neat intro for my channel.
This is how exactly I'm feeling. Just beat and exhausted. You just done, Chloe? Howdy. Another day here at Gone Rogue Games. So, I know people say all I do is complain on this channel, so I'm going to keep to the tradition and get some complaining out. Because today has been an absolutely exhausting, mentally, emotionally day of finally doing Edge of Eternity's allocations. First of all, distributors were so late getting final allocations done for Edge of Eternities. I think they're waiting for the last minute to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row, which of course puts pressure on me to try to then get all the money that needs to be collected so I can pay my distributors to then get Edge of Eternities. Yeah, it's just exhausting. So this has been another set that I'm definitely going to rant and rave about. Less raving, a lot more ranting. About Edge of Eternities, because Edge of Eternities is the first set after Final Fantasy. And even though it's a hot set, we're definitely seeing a shift in my opinion, a huge warning sign with going forward with Magic the Gathering. And this is something that I think existed with Dustmorn and Foundations. Not so much with Tarkir, because Tarkir ended up being an incredibly hot set. And we saw it try to happen with Aether Drift, but Aether Drift did like a complete reversal. And everything from that set ended up being hot garbage. And I'm expecting the Aether Drift starts to get blown out on Amazon, and you're going to start seeing deals at distribution, because there's a lot of... the thing is, too, and I'll talk more about this in this video, which is a huge warning sign for Magic the Gathering, because the entire culture has shifted now. And we're in uncharted territories going forward. Everyone that tells you that this is a good thing that's happening with the huge hype of collectors and investors coming to Magic, and it's just a good thing overall because it's bringing more excitement, I'm not so sure. In fact, I am a lot more skeptical going forward. That's why in this channel I've just always hampered utility, 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 butts on seats. That is what makes a game, is people playing the game. Collecting is an afterthought. As long as the majority of the focus is on playing the game, I think we'll have a healthy game going forward. And then you can always sell collector sets and all those specialty sets if you have enough robust people to actually be willing to buy them. But it always...
Okay, so first off, I'm going to stop you right here for two reasons. One, I want to go over the argument he's presented so far, because this is basically what sold me on coming to watch this video with you guys. I am completely 100% behind this guy with respect to, I feel that the game is the most important thing when it comes to a trading card game. The whole purpose of a trading card game is to establish a game that people want to play. People should want to come and pick up a Commander deck and play Commander. That is the whole point of Commander. If you are coming to Magic because you like Commander and your goal is just to collect the cards, then all we're doing is putting monetary value onto the cardboard, and that's just going to cause all kinds of issues like it did last fall when Jewel Lotus and Dockside Extortionist got banned, and what was the other one? Mana? No, it wasn't Mana Crypt, was it? No. What was the third one that got banned that everybody was really upset about? Maybe it was Mana Crypt. But I don't think it was. I think it was something else. I don't remember, to be honest. Because I never played any of those cards. I still don't own any of those cards to this day. Even though I'm diving into old sets and I'm starting to pull some pretty cool stuff like the Helm of the Host that I pulled the other day, and what was that Phyrexian card we pulled? That was really cool too. Very tired. It's like 5 in the morning. I've been up since like 2 watching a friend of mine stream who came to my live stream last night. Shout out to Sean for showing up to my live stream. But anyways, long story short, I have always been of the belief that a card game needs to be focused on the actual gameplay itself, which is why we do Dollarama Draws of Destiny on this channel, which is why the pack battles that I do for new set versus old set are focused on what is the value for gameplay more so than what is the value of the dollar value of the cards. Because ultimately the dollar value of a piece of cardboard is going to shift crazy amounts potentially, like markets do, and like stocks and stuff do. So for me personally, the whole point of a card game is building a game that people want to play. And I think he's got that down pat here, and I think he's got an excellent point that he's presenting. Now, the other reason I stopped this is because Guy is about to come through and kind of distract him for a bit, and I'm going to just kind of skip past that guy coming in, going through, him going on about the environment where he works, and I think about here is where he starts picking up on his discussion again. So let's go from here and see.
So let me back up and give you my full, and I probably have to use some cheat sheets here because my mind is actually mush right now. So I'm going to kind of read over some stuff I've jotted down and kind of go over it. Jotted down some Q&A questions, and I'm going to try to answer them here on video from the store for perspective of someone that does this at a reasonable volume, I'd say. So, in this Edge of Eternities, I'm going to do, 40, 50K. which is lower than normal because of allocations. That was the most I was able to get. I basically put in for max allocations from every distributor, and this is definitely, it's about 50-60% of what I normally get and have available to sell here locally, sell to my patrons, and have product left over, really to keep us in really stocked until the next release. And that's kind of the name of the game in this industry, is you want to be able to cultivate these games until more product is released from future sets. But anyway, Aether Drift, I was talking about how Aether Drift had kind of a reversal, and it was the set that where collector boosters were definitely starting to become pushed. So let me give you a history of collector boosters. Let's just give a history of Magic the Gathering product. So in the beginning,
Oh, we're getting an ad. I'm not gonna make you guys watch the ad. I'll leave this in. Eh. I'm gonna go back to small screen though, because I think
in the
it's
very
skipping because of
beginning
the big
of
screen.
Magic Gathering, there were basically just two products, and I guess there were fat packs too. You had the pre-release. Actually, you didn't have pre-release kits because if you're old enough in this genre in Magic the Gathering, what they used to do for pre-releases is just actually open up draft boosters and give everyone six, and you'd usually get like a promo. They'd have a bunch of promos that you'd give out for attending the pre-release. But pre-release kits, I believe, didn't come till much later. Maybe it was a Return to Ravnica was the first one they started doing that. Because I remember doing Mirrodin Besieged, and it still was packs as well. So I'm not sure exactly when pre-release kits were a thing. But when I first got into Magic Gathering, and for the majority of Magic's first 15 years, they had one product to rule them all. I mean, they had starter decks. Occasionally, they'd have decks you could play with, like decks you could play out of the box. You had like challenger
Decks.
deck type things, and
Exactly.
you'd get like from the vaults. So there were like specialty products that you could get, but it was mainly
For
the
the record, I
the
haven't seen at
the
this point. That was just a
kind of the
pure guess.
flagship product was your draft booster. And
Yeah.
you could get any card out of the draft booster. And so you did have collectors. You had plenty of people collecting and buying booster boxes just to crack to try to find the cards. But for the first easily 15, 20 years of Magic the Gathering, utility definitely was king. Prices of cards reflected how much they saw in decks. Like I remember the most expensive card during like Kamigawa was the Jit, and it was because most decks were playing 4-ofs, and that was kind of the culture of and even collectible cards too. They're mainly utility driven. So this new what we're seeing with like Final Fantasy, and I even think it started before that when people really started collecting like Praetors and oil slick cards and stuff. So I mean, there has been this collectible aspect when Planeswalker.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a shot here. I haven't been playing for nearly as long as this fellow has, clearly. Um, as I've explained before in the channel, I played for like 1 year during university, maybe like a year and a half, with a few friends. We did like modern at that time, or legacy, or whatever you want to call it back then. That was like 2008, 2009, something like that, because I graduated officially at the end of 2000 or the summer of 2010. So, I only played that 1 year and then, or a year and a half, and then I didn't come back to it until a couple years ago, like when I started this channel roughly. And I'm just gonna, you know what, we'll crack a pack while I talk here. Give you guys something else to look at besides just that random pause screen. So, as I was saying, I came back to Magic at that time, but I think that, like, Lord of the Rings is what brought me in. And I know Lord of the Rings brought a lot of people in, not necessarily for gameplay's sake, but because of collecting and stuff. That being said, if I were to really take a shot at it, I would say Universes Beyond, which started, as far as I know, with Secret Lair stuff. Maybe it started in these, though. If you really want to count Transformers as the Universes Beyond, they might have been the first thing that went beyond anything else. When did this come out officially? Brothers War debuted. Usually there's a date on the pack somewhere. 2022. I don't think 2022 is when it started. I think it might have been before that. Anyways, whenever the very first Universes Beyond product came out, I think that is when the collecting nonsense started. In terms, or the shift at least, in terms of collecting for Wizards of the Coast. And of course, that's just because you got uh, Big Papa Hasbro wanting them to make profit, make profit, make profit, make profit all the time. And what makes profit is collecting, per se. Now, is that a viable way to keep a game going? I think he has an opinion on that that I want to hear, and I think you guys want to hear after we look at this pack. But personally, uh, I'm gonna go with no as my short answer, and I'll elaborate after we listen to what he says. You got Power Stone. It's not bad. You don't really need a lot of those, but just gonna flip back to the other view before I go through the rest of this pack to make sure that you guys are actually seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, art card. Looks like it's a sideways one. Hmm. Have I pulled that one before? We might have pulled that one before. I'm not sure. Forest. Mishra's Juggernaut. 5 for 5/3 with trample. It attacks each combat and it has Unearth 5 and a red. Not the best card ever. Tamacool Honor Guard. 1 and a green. Ward 2. 3/1. It's okay. 3/1 part is the part that sucks. Depth card Colossus. I do like this guy, even though he doesn't untap during your untap step. He's still just a big beefy boy to put on the field as a blocker, or if you have any of the classic blue untapping cards, like Mage's Hand, for example, you can get this guy to untap fairly easily without having to pay the 3. Rust Goliath, this almost made it into my mono green deck. It got cut, I believe, at the last minute for a card. If it hasn't been cut yet, it's going to be cut. I'm going to be editing the Malimo deck today, which I'm also going to mention in my Super Deck Sunday video. And I'm going to be probably putting out that list the same day that I put out this video, which is going to be Monday. Mainly because I have to actually take that deck list then and put it onto Arcadex so that I can share it with you guys. I'm going to put you here. Actually, you know what? I will give you props. Reach and Trample is pretty good. And even though it can come in as a 3/5 or a 10/10, green just does not have a lot of reach. So, Go for the Throat is a classic instant. 1 and a black, destroy target non-artifact creature. I'll take that one. Obstinate Baloth. 2 green. Just trying to find the right. It's weird. The lighting is weird today because it's got a shadow on this side and it's got way too much brightness on this side. I'm not sure why. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. If a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard this guy, you get to put it onto the battlefield instead of putting it in your graveyard. Geese. Sardian Cliff Stomper. I do like this guy, so I'm glad we got an extra copy of him. 1 and a red for 0/4, but if it's your turn and you control 4 or more mountains, he gets +X/+O, where X is the number of mountains. So essentially, if you put this guy into a mono red deck, he can get pretty freaking beefy on your turn. Reconstructed Thopter is not terrible, but not great. I'd rather just have an Ornithopter personally, which we pulled a bunch of those too. Scratchtrawler. Oh, that one's okay. 3/2 for 3. When it enters, or another artifact you control, or sorry, no, whenever it or, oh no, this is actually much better than I thought it was. And I like the artwork on this one. Cool. I mixed this up with a different one. This is the one that when it goes to the graveyard or something, or another artifact goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, you can return to your hand a different artifact in your graveyard that has a lesser mana value. So he's awesome because he lets you recycle artifacts that go to the graveyard. Now, it doesn't work with tokens, obviously, but I mean, if you lose, say, this guy, you can get back your Soul Ring. If you have like a Death Charge Colossus out, for example, you can get back anything with mana value 8 or less that is technically an artifact, because it counts for creatures too. So that's pretty awesome. I love having a second one of those. We got a Balthopter! These are freaking awesome. I love these guys. And having an extra one is awesome. It is a 3 for a 1/2 artifact creature. Flash flying, you can cast colorless and artifact spells as though they had flash, and whenever you cast a spell with if the amount of mana spent to cast the spell is greater than what Liberator's current power is, you get to put +1/+1 counter on it. This is definitely going to end up in that mono blue deck that I really need to edit at some point in the near future, because that deck is going to be insanely OP by the time I'm done with it. I'm probably never going to end up playing it except for at tables where I'm just absolutely annoyed with somebody who played too much of a powerful deck the first round. But it'll still be a fun deck to have for just that reason. Am I petty? No, to be honest, I just hate pub stopping. Um, I I have no problem losing whatsoever as long as the game is fair. But when you come to a bracket 2 table with a bracket 3 deck and you know you're just going to totally own everybody, you're just being an ass. And there's no need for that. Philology Cliff Chain Dancer is 3 and a red for a 2/4 that gains double strike until end of turn if you pay 2. It's not terrible. Definitely the hit was the Liberator, though, and the Scrap Forger. I'm going to keep those two aside over here so that we can look at them. I'm just going to pile up the rest of this stuff over here until the next pack comes out. There we go. Just like that. But we're not going to do the next pack right away. We are first going to go back to our video with a quick shot of the beautiful baby in between. Aww. Alright, let's go back to our video. See what his opinion is on what I was saying earlier about collectors.
Planeswalkers were released too. Planeswalkers had this. When Planeswalkers were very first released, like any Planeswalker, no matter how trash the Planeswalker was collectible because that was like what people were actually collecting at that point. And then, that just got oversaturated with how many Planeswalkers they put out, and then no one, of course, could keep up with the storyline. Back then, when they first released Play Boosters, we had a much more simplified storyline that people could kind of keep track of and keep up with what was going on in the multiverse. And now we're all over the place, especially with these dress-up sets that no one knows, what is going on. No one has any like fandom towards like Chandra or Jace anymore. And yeah, collectability is kind of weird now.
I will stop it right there briefly to say this. I actually came in, of course, um, when I first came into Magic, none of my friends really were interested in the lore super much. We were just playing the card game. And when I came back in later on, the lore really at that point just wasn't a focus of Wizards of the Coast when they were putting out the cards. Like, I didn't even realize there were actually backstories until maybe the fourth or fifth set after I returned. I just assumed that each set had a theme because they were doing themes. Like, and I mean, to me, that made a certain sort of sense. Like, every set has its own theme, and a certain amount of cards contained within the theme, and you create its own sort of like world for that theme. Like, I could get that. I got behind the idea of that. That's why each one had like a name to it, like Dominaria or New Capenna or Ravnica or whatever. But I didn't realize how in depth the actual storytelling was until much later. And I'm honestly disappointed that they don't put the effort into keeping the storytelling going the way they used to, because I think that was a really crucial element of this game that made it a lot more popular than it is now. Like, a lot of older players have left specifically because it doesn't make sense as a card game anymore compared to what it used to be. So, especially with Universes Beyond coming in and other stuff like that. So, but I find it interesting that he decided it started with Planeswalkers. I didn't realize that Planeswalkers were such an issue when they came in.
So Bloomburrow too occasionally get sets where people just like squirrels or dragons and have these like collectible aspect to them that don't make sense on utility reasons. But for the vast majority of Magic the Gathering, the price has been a direct reflection on how much the cards actually see either competitive play or casual play. And the product to actually deliver that was the play boosters. And in Wildsville Drain, that's when they came up with the experiment of doing collector boosters. And at first, they were just an absolute hit because Wizards of the Coast did make them more bang for your buck than actually going the other routes for going the draft route. So you could get more foils in them, and people figured out quite. At that point, too, foil multipliers were still a thing. So foils were actually something people wanted, just the regular foils. Nowadays, there is typically no spread between foils and regular cards. In fact, oftentimes the cheapest card is foils. Because when people go to search, especially if it's utility driven, they're searching cards for decks, people just automatically assume foils are worth more, so they buy out the normal version, and oftentimes that actually leads the foils to being cheaper than the normal version. So Wizard of the Coast then.
That's also interesting. I personally think that foils are a lot cheaper because of the pringling issue that comes with regards to how they're printed. A lot of people don't want cards that are curling up as you pull them out of the pack. Like when I opened that Dominaria United collector booster, those um foil lands were so pringled that I actually had to sandwich them between a stack of 50 lands on either end and put them into a box to try and help naturally bend them back to a certain extent. And they're still curled, don't get me wrong, but at least they've like somewhat flattened out. But I mean, like, that is ridiculous. And for me, that's why I personally like, as much as I love foil cards because of my Yu-Gi-Oh roots, I personally will buy a non-foil card first unless I'm getting a special art.
And realize that collector boosters are going to have to be more incentivized. And I understand that why Wizard of the Coast did this. They wanted to push the cost of creating a collector booster is probably the same cost of creating even something like a pre-release kit. The amount of material in a pre-release kit is probably very similar to a collector's. It doesn't cost any more for them to print a foil than it does a normal one. Maybe there is a little bit more, but it's not substantial in the scope of things of how much they actually pay for it. I mean, look at this Commander Masters collector booster box here. You know, this thing is super expensive and has this is a good one because this one has a few packs in it, and it goes for, you know, what, like I think 8 times more, 9 times more distributor cost than a pre-release pack did for the same product. So I understand in a business sense why Wizard of the Coast really wanted to kind of milk these collectors and these whales, but it is now led to like I want to say almost like a collectible creep, to where they keep having to be kind of one-upping themselves with
Just
each
realized my head was in
collector
the same
release.
spot
And
as
so
my
we started
phone.
seeing things like surge foils, serialized cards, and ultra chase cards be putting in collectors. The problem is the play boosters and
Oh, another damn ad.
If you don't know where to start in Top Heroes World, the Springland is a great place to
Blah
start.
blah blah
There are
blah blah
low-level
blah
enemies and
blah
villages
ad.
with free
Go
healing.
away.
they tried set boosters. All of this stuff is not scaled with collector boosters. And so when you're looking at overall value of purchasing a Magic the Gathering product, of course your whales and your collectors are going to go for collectors, but just your regular players are now being forced into collectors because that's basically the only thing that is really worth your money. It doesn't hold true, but even in people's perspective, it does early on. It takes a while for like utility to build up of some of these boxes to where the actual contents of the playable cards can actually be a better deal. And typically, people are still not being very fair to when they're analyzing products, because these are products that have a hard time ever getting above distribution cost, whereas collectors, they go up quite fast, and they're still, even at that discrepancy between the two, collector boosters are still a better bang of the buck. Even right now with Edge of Eternities, where we just saw a blowout on.
So now this is interesting. He started out with maybe I've misunderstood his argument because I originally thought his argument was about the viability of the game. And with respect to that, he was looking at whether a card is playable or not. Now, for the most part, as far as I'm aware, there could be an exception here or there, but as far as I'm aware, for the most part, every card that's available in a set is available both in the play boosters and in the collector's boosters. The difference between collectors and play is primarily the art styles and the foil treatments and stuff like that, as far as I'm aware. Now, I believe there are exceptions where, like, certain super rare chase cards might only get printed in a special treatment and therefore are only available in a collector's. I'm thinking, for example, I don't think, for example, the last time that Jewel Lotus came out, I don't think that it was available in the play boosters. I think it was only available in the collector boosters of that set. I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm always willing to admit when I make mistakes. And I could be definitely wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that that's the way that is. But again, that's like a really rare instance where they're looking for like a super chase card, and I don't see that being the case here so much. But he's starting to look at this more in terms of like financial value as floating the game. Whereas I originally thought his argument was definitely more about gameplay floating the game. I personally, as a player, am not going out of my way to get collector boosters unless I know that a piece I need for a deck is only available in a collector booster. If I have extra money and I want to get something shiny or treat myself to something nice, on a rare occasion, I've gotten a few collector boosters here or there. Not a lot. I think I've bought like 7 since I started this channel, maybe. And over half of those were Tarkir. So, but I just, yeah, like, I don't think that there's a huge difference in terms of what you're pulling, but I could be wrong. Let's see what he says. Let's give him a chance.
On, I think TCG Player was offering like $100 play boosters versus collector boosters are going for $400. I can tell you, like, even right now, looking at prices of what you could get for the specialized cards out of collectors, it'd probably still be your better bang for your buck to go the collector routes. And it also is like these things are so anchored to each other price wise that if cards go up in value, even like the normal version, the collector boosters are still going to scale better. So it's just a really bad scenario for all these other products ever being able to compete with collectors. And then the biggest issue with how they do packs now is the other products that they release for Magic the Gathering, being pre-release kits and bundles, also contain play and not collectors. And so those products are now absolutely inferior. So I guess this long-winded history of where we're going with products is coming back to full circle. So I've been doing this for really hard since 2018, I would say, for running this Patreon, really collecting numbers, really gauging the market of what people wanted. And even during Wildsville Drain, when they introduced collectors, there still was a more healthy dispersion of what people wanted. So you'd have your player that wanted your bundles and your play boosters. You'd have your people that wanted the commander decks, and you'd have your people that wanted the collector boosters. And a lot of people didn't want to touch collector boosters because they're not a collector. They weren't interested in foils, and they'd put their money. And at that point, there was less of a spread between because there again wasn't a lot of these specialized, ultra specialized cards. And if I
See, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. It, you need a card for a deck and you can't afford a special art treatment. You just get the regular version of that card and you put it in your deck. I mean, if you're a player and you want to play the game, that just makes perfect sense that you need to get the cards you need to play the game. But I mean, I'm not understanding why there's a shift to the other side now. Unless there is a shift in the mentality of the player. And then the question is, why is there a shift in the mentality of the player? Because if there's a shift in the mentality of the player that they must have a shiny special art treatment for their deck when they go to a tournament or go to their LGS, because their deck isn't as good if they don't have the shiny one, that is a problem. And the question is, why are we shifting to that? And maybe he'll get to that in a few minutes. He's still got 18 minutes roughly to make his argument. But I don't feel that way, at least personally. I mean, I would love to know what you guys are feeling as card players out there yourselves in the comments down below. But personally, I don't feel that way. I'm not driven to um, buy collector boosters specifically because my deck needs to be blinged out. I buy them occasionally for one of two reasons. One, um, I really like the set and I just want to get something cool from that set to show how much I like that set specifically. You'll note that I've bought collector boosters for Dungeons and Dragons once, maybe twice. Bloomborough, um, I bought them. I didn't get my hands on any for Lord of the Rings. If I could, I would have probably, but I've never gotten my hands on any of those for Lord of the Rings. But for oh, what was the other sets we done? New Capenna, because like I said in my video on Saturday, it's like a nostalgia set for me. And finally Tarkir, because I've just really liked Tarkir. So I mean, those are the four sets that I've actually bought collector boosters in. But I'm not going on my way to get Murders at Karloff Manor collector boosters. Because if I need a Murders at Karloff Manor card, I'll get the cheaper one, since that's a cheap set. And since a lot of people don't really care for that set, I mean, I care for the mechanics of the game. Like, that's just what players do. So I'm really curious as to why players in general aren't feeling the same way that I do as a player. Whoop, did I close it? I hope not. Oh no, I just muted the tab. Okay, there we
I
go.
back up with Wild's Little Drain, as I stated, like it only lasted a little bit with when the foil EV, of course, came down to nothing, and then collector boosters actually per slot of cards. And I think that New Capenna was like the real where collector boosters failed because
Excuse me.
Katie, I've got a cat with no pulse here. I need adrenaline and an IV line. Quick as you can, please.
Should have gone to specs.
I'm just gonna mute the commercial since I can't skip it this time. I'm gonna give you a shot of Kaiba too while we wait for it to come back. I know, yesterday was so hard, eh? I'm proud of you for staying up for the live stream. Oh, he's back.
they weren't very rare. There was nothing really special out of collector boosters. And at that point, it was a lackluster set too. And it was just like collector boosters just at that point didn't make sense. And still at
Yeah.
that point, though, there was a
New
good
Capenna
spread
was pretty bad as a
between
set overall,
people
at
buying the
least
different products
received-wise.
that actually fulfilled their needs. However, what I've seen now with Edge of Eternities and what I'm seeing, especially from what I'm after talking with the distributors, is it's everyone and their dog only wants collectors, and I can't blame them because Wizards of the Coast has kind of put us in this situation of where it is just
Everyone
all
and
the
their
smart
dog.
money, all of the fun money, all of
Do you want a
the
collector
utility money, everything should be going towards collectors. And there's a lot of negative
Agent Dragon's you, guy,
consequences
but he doesn't want
that
collector boosters.
we can have from this demand for collectors versus the rest of the products going forward. First of all, I don't know how Wizards of the Coast solves this because they either have to print more collectors to meet this demand because right now everything is in just complete revolt. Distributors, players, stores, no one can get enough collectors. Everyone is frustrated because there's definitely more of a demand. And of course, when that happens, people are going to demand Wizards of the Coast create more collectors. But it's
See, this is interesting too. Is that the case for every set, or is that the case specifically now? Now, I would argue that that point that he's making right now could be very valid. A lot of people want collector boosters right now. Why do people want collector boosters right now, though? Think about this, guy. What set are we working on right now? Oh, yeah, it's Final Fantasy. Of course, people are going nuts trying to get their hands on collector boosters of Final Fantasy. It's the biggest Universes Beyond set since Lord of the Rings, as far as I can tell. Like, it's done way better than Assassin's Creed. It did way better than what the hell else has come out since then? That was Universes Beyond. I can't even think of a better set that no. Final Fantasy's just definitely kicked the living snot out of pretty much everything. I think Final Fantasy actually kicked the snot out of Lord of the Rings personally. And Lord of the Rings was the champ up until then. But I'm pretty sure that Final Fantasy's just owned the crap out of that. with regards to Dragons of Storm of Tarkir, though, which was the most popular set right before Final Fantasy, were everybody shouting for collector boosters necessarily? That's not what I seen. I seen everybody just shouting for all the kinds of cards out there. My viewpoint, play boosters and collector boosters were selling out like hotcakes in that set. And I mean, that's still going to be happening with Final Fantasy too, but of course people want more collector boosters for Final Fantasy. That makes sense. But all those new people coming into the game now suddenly wanting only collector boosters for Edges of Eternity? Maybe? Or Edge of Eternity? I keep messing up the name of the new set, I apologize. But maybe that's the case, but I don't think it is. I think I don't know. Maybe he's making a mountain of a molehill. Maybe this is just where he is, where he does his own marketing that he sees this. Maybe it's the way his channel is that people are just like drawn that way. But I don't know.
It's just it continues to add on to this kind of bloat of the problem. Is the more collectors that they produce, the more they're going to have to put value into collectors to keep justifying the purchases over play. Like the amount that it keeps stretching from because part of collectability is scarcity. I mean, utility is good because it's a direct correlation of people actually playing the card. It's simple supply and demand. But collectability is often only pegged on how scarce the card is compared to what's available on the market. And if they it's a definite damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for Wizards of the Coast. If they print more collectors to try to meet this new demand of what distributors and stores and players are begging for, then the value of collectors is going to falter. And if the value of collectors falter, where it already has this massive spread, as I've stated, like 4 boxes of Edge of Eternity play, probably still are not worth it compared to the 400 boxes of or $400 Edge of Eternity collectors. And it's still in the purchasing behavior of people, that's still being reflected right now in real time of people still deciding that they'd rather purchase a $400 collector than 4 play booster boxes. So again, something has to give, but
when the world needs saving,
The universe is in terrible danger.
Skip.
other unintended consequences, which I used to really bitch about commander decks because this is the problem of when they release products all at the same day, is no one wants to play in the pre-release. No one wants to spend money on pre-release kits and on play boosters when they can just buy collector boosters. That's what everyone wants. And what we saw with Final Fantasy, I think, was an anomaly, where when people couldn't get collector boosters, they're like, okay, fine, I'll buy the other products. And there's just like anything Final Fantasy was liquid gold.
Really?
This is not the case for Edge of Eternities. Like I said at the very first of the video, this is the first like real set where we're seeing this play out, where it's like, play boosters are not above distributor cost. They are right there. Distributors are actually now trying to incentivize.
I hardcore disagree with this. I can't, like, yes, people went down to regular play boosters because they couldn't get their hands on collectors. Sure, again, Final Fantasy's Final Fantasy. But you can't tell me that's the way Tarkir went. There's not just a whole bunch of excess play boosters of Tarkir laying around compared to collector boosters simply because of um lack of interest. It's more with regards to what was printed. Wizards of the Coast specifically prints less collector boosters, which again goes to your point of driving up the value. I give you that point. The whole point of collector boosters is to drive up the value of those packs because those are for people who want to invest. So, I mean, that makes a certain sort of sense. But I mean, he's making it seem like all players are just investors. And if all players are investors, and we have that mentality still after what happened last fall, where we lost control of this game as players and gave control of it to the company, because everybody pitched a fit, including myself. I'll admit, I got on the bandwagon and I feel guilty as hell about that. But everyone pitched a fit when the cards got banned in the fall, all of a sudden out of the blue because of how much it affected market values and things like that. And I was like, I was upset about it in terms of gameplay, of course, because I'm always upset about bans in terms of gameplay. But I mean, I admit I also made an argument for the people who were upset about the card values. But I mean, if all we're focused on still at this point is card values, and we're not looking at what we can use them for in terms of gameplay, then you're right. This isn't a game anymore. This is just collecting for the sake of collecting. But I mean, this isn't my experience. I really haven't had that experience. I mean, the last pre-release I went to was Tarkir Dragonstorm, and that room was packed. We had 40 plus players, I think, that night. Possibly. I mean, there's 3 or 4 tables in Paradox. Each table can have like 10 people on either side, so we may have even had more than that. I think we had a few people who were just in for Commander, though. But I mean, I think we had at least 40 people playing the pre-release that night. I didn't go to Final Fantasy because I couldn't afford it, and I'm sure that one was banging. I'm contemplating going to the pre-release next weekend, I think it is, for Edge of Eternities. I haven't decided yet for sure if I'm going to go or not, just because I don't know if I can afford it necessarily, and also afford the 7 packs that I need for new set versus old set, while also saving up for Avatar. But if I can afford it, I'm probably going to go to that pre-release because pre-releases are fun. Like that's it's not a matter of whether I'm going to get my money back out of pre-release. It's a matter of whether I'm going to be able to afford the value of the experience. And when Wizards of the Coast keeps hiking the price of pre-releases, I mean, I think Final Fantasy was like in the neighborhood of $60 or something like that for pre-release. Edge of Eternities, I think, is going to be like 45 or 50. Like the regular pre-release prices were usually around like 30, 40 Canadian. So the fact that they're all going up too, that's on Wizards. That's not on the players. Quit putting this on the players, guy, and put it on the actual company because it's the company that's messing this up. And you are admitting that the company is like setting it up for failure by putting like more of an emphasis on collectors. But I don't think that's where the issue is. I think the issue is just simply in terms of they're hiking the crap out of prices because they know they can get away with it, and the actual cost is not the same. Like Final Fantasy probably cost them a ton because of the IP, but I bet they're not going to lower the prices too much for Edge of Eternities, and they really should lower it back because it's an in-house set. They should be more respectful of their player base, but they're not going to. And on that part, I will agree with you. But I mean, in terms of what you're saying now, no, this is off the rails.
Device and require stores to buy play boosters because how they're getting allocated is based upon how many play boosters they buy from Wizard of the Coast. So Wizard of the Coast is just doing like this, basically not a 1-for-1, but like a 6-for-1 or a 36-for-1 is how they're determining how to print these things. And there just seems to be now a big bloat of this other product, and I'm not sure the market's going to be able to absorb even Edge of Eternities, even something like this. It does seem to be a hot set. And if we kind of go back to like Duskmourn and Foundations, we're starting to see this discrepancy too with these products. And I'm not sure how many sets that this market can actually handle before this bloat just becomes like too great. And at this point, what's the point? Like is Magic just going to be collectors? The flagship product has moved now. It has moved from play boosters, where it should be the flagship product because you can do everything you.
So again, I mean, sure, you could say that, and I'm not going to say that you're wrong about that. Is there more of an emphasis on collectors? Probably, because Wizards is going to make more money out of that product. Because as you said, it doesn't cost much more for them to print a collector's versus a regular set. The biggest difference probably being that they have to pay the artists a little more, maybe, for the special treatments. And it might cost a little bit extra to do the amount of foils that they put into a collector versus a regular pack. But I mean, beyond that, the issue isn't that. Again, buddy, the issue, you just hit it, but you're not actually hitting it. Like, you're hitting the issue, but you're going right by it without realizing that you're actually covering it. The issue is the amount of sets they're putting out. There's no need to put out freaking. How many sets have they put out this year so far? We've got Aether Drift, we've got Tark here, we got the space set coming out soon, we got Final Fantasy, we had I think we had another set in there that's somewhere that I'm forgetting. Like, and we've got Avatar coming out later this year, plus there's still Marvel at some point too, I believe, coming out this year. Like, there's just way too much stuff coming out, and that is focused on collecting. That they're trying to push, hey, you gotta buy this, you gotta buy this, you gotta buy this. And they're pushing that on two fronts. They're pushing that on the front of, I'm gonna open a pack while I do this one, so that you guys just don't keep staring at his face while he's frozen. And besides, I don't think I'm going to watch his entire argument because he's definitely getting way too far off of the topic of what I thought he was covering originally. Hmm, here we go, that's better. Sorry guys, just trying to adjust the camera for you. I think it's zoomed in by accident a little bit right now. There we go, that's better. Okay, so, as I was saying, the issue is with the amount of stuff that's being printed. And that's being focused on two fronts. That is being focused on the play booster front, and that's being focused on the collector front. So from respect to, why did the first one open so nicely? I can't believe that first one opened actually as nicely as it did, because this is normally the set that I have trouble with. There we go. With respect to collecting, yes, they're pushing the crap out of collector boosters. They're making sure they print out enough that they can put the product into the market successfully, while at the same time not putting out enough that the product will tank because of scarcity, as you pointed out earlier. So, I mean, on that front, you have an absolute point. Like, yes, they are definitely manipulating collector boosters and the collectors into buying stuff frequently and making it a collectible game in that respect. However, with respect to play boosters, they are also doing the same thing, guy. They're doing the exact same thing to us. You look at the cards today that are coming out versus the cards that came out when I started playing again back in 2023, 2022 even. You actually look at those and I mean it's insane the amount of power creep. Like you look at a set like New Capenna, you look at a set like Wilds of Eldraine, you look at a set like even no, like just take those two sets for example. Look at those two sets and oh March of the Machines. Look at those three sets right there. And compare those sets to what we've seen in Tarkir, what we've seen in Final Fantasy, and what we're going to see in Edge of Eternities. And you tell me that the cards that are coming out in these three new sets are not vastly overpowered compared to the cards that came out in those three older sets. Now, is power creep a thing? It's always been a thing. Of course, like, cards from the early 90s are not going to be nearly as good, with some exceptions, compared to cards that come out today. There are certain exceptions, of course, that have been printed all the way along. For example, again, Jewel Lotus, Mana Crypt, blah, 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 blah. Cards that are insanely overpowered on their own when they came out, and people, when they realized they were overpowered, made sure they didn't print, like, hey, let's print a very different but exact same version of Jewel Lotus with a new name or something. You know what I mean? Like, they avoid making the same mistake too much throughout history. But at this point, everything that's coming out is crazy overpowered compared to even sets that recently came out. Like, it's just phenomenal the difference. And with regards to that, again, players have to buy. They have to buy. They have to buy. With every new set, we are forced to buy as player base. So I mean, it's happening on two fronts. It's players are being forced to buy, and ooh, that one's pretty. I like that. Players are being forced to buy, and so are the collectors. We're both being driven to it at a similar rate, and it's not a sustainable rate. Um, the profits that they're making right now might be sustainable for another year or two, but I bet once they get through all of the stuff that's happening with Marvel over the next year or two that's coming out, I think they got Marvel printing this year, next year, and maybe in 2026. I can't remember for sure. If they do, I'm going to wager after that run in 2026, there won't be anything that really comes out and gets people motivated anymore. Because they're going to just tank it because they're pushing way too much product too quickly. That is the issue, ultimately. It's not an issue of we're being forced to buy the more expensive product. I don't know why he thinks that's the issue. Again, maybe from a store's perspective, because a lot of people want to buy collectors. He thinks that's what is his experience at least, but I just don't see it. One in a red for Bitter Reunion. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw two. Pay one, sacrifice this. Creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Yeah, okay. Overwhelming Remorse. 4 and a black. Instant. Costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Yeah, okay. It's in black. There's a good chance your graveyard will be pretty decently full when you play it. Stern Lesson. 2 and a blue. Draw 2 cards and discard a card. Create a tapped Power Stone. Yeah, okay. Moment of Defiance, 2 and a black. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains lifelink until end of turn. Draw a card. That I like. Ooh, we got a power suit. Nice. I only have like 2, maybe 3 copies of this, but this is actually one of my favorite artifacts. Um, Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it and has Ward 2. So it's going to get +1/+1 just for this being attached to it, but for everything else that's attached to it, so this is insanely awesome for Voltron decks. It gives a +1/+1 boost, and then it also is giving Ward 2 so that this the creature can't be targeted as easily. And it only costs 2 to equip and 2 to play, so that is definitely the hit of the pack so far. Audacity. 1 green for enchantment. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0, has trample. When this is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Okay. Branchwood Armor, on the other hand, is awesome. I love this card. 2 and a green for enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each force you control. Oh, another transformer! Da 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 da! We got Blaster Combat DJ. This is one of the ones I can't actually play into a Transformers deck with Optimus, though, unfortunately. More than meets the eye, 1 in a green and a red, or he costs 3 in a green and a red to put in play. Other non-token artifact creatures and vehicles you control have modular 1, so they enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. And when they die, you can put their +1/+1 counters on a different artifact creature you control. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put onto this guy, you convert him. He goes from a 3/3 to Blaster Moral Booster, which has modular 3, so it enters with 3 +1/+1 counters. Pay X, tap, move X +1/+1 counters from him onto another target artifact. That artifact gains haste until end of turn. And then if this has no +1/+1 counters on it, you get to convert it. This is going to be a fun deck to build at some point. Clearly, it's not going to work with Optimus, like I say, but this is definitely a major hit and probably my favorite pull so far from the packs that we've done so far. Probably. Definitely my favorite pull. I love the Transformers cards. They are the main reason I keep buying these packs. And yes, I bought like 3 or 4 of them again because the store had an extra box, and I'm pretty happy. Oh, Bonesaw. +1/+0 and equipped 1. It's not terrible. It's 0 to put into play, so I mean, you can't bitch about that. Over the top, 5 and 2 red, each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Puts all permanent cards they revealed this way onto the battlefield, and then puts the rest into their graveyard. Craziness. Okay. Hmm. It's a really good card in the right deck, but I'm not sure which one I want to put it in. Calamity's Wake. 1 and a white, exile all graveyards. Players can't cast non-creature spells this turn. Ooh. And just one of those useless tokens that I actually hate a lot. So I'm just going to put it here. That is awesome. We actually did really good on that pack. Clearly. Um, I like the Calamity's Wake, I like the Over the Top, I like the Bonesaw, like those are all great cards there, plus some extra good stuff there. Just gonna tuck that one over here. Alright. I mean, we definitely did well so far. Do we even want to open the third pack? Do we want to continue to listen to this guy's jibber jabber? We've been going for an hour. I'll give him a couple more minutes, see if he turns this around, but if his argument is just going to keep being this way, I'm going to call it here and say that I don't actually agree with him overall. I have changed my mind throughout the video. Because
With a play
he's
booster, you can hopefully find some cards to collect out of that and get excited about. You can actually draft with them. You can play pre-releases and seal with them. You can play leagues. You can add to your collection. All those things can be done with play boosters, whereas collector boosters literally are just for show. That's it. It's like,
exactly.
yes, people like to bling out their decks and things like that, but the amount of players, and maybe this demographic has just shifted so much, and I'm just a boomer and just don't understand, that it's all about collectability now, and I should, shut my mouth. But in this industry now that I've been in for over 20 years, that does still seem to be the robust and healthy thing, is when people have accessible products to be able to get. I mean, that's what, I'd like to complain so much about this crap. I was going to show this because, I'm still complaining about Pokemon because it's impossible to get. You love my allocations for White Flare and Black Bolt, my whopping 5 ETBs of both, of, like I said, tens of thousands of dollars per release of
I really don't care about Pokemon. Like, at all, I don't care about Pokemon. So, yeah, Pokemon is a ridiculous game that everybody's more focused on the collectability, I think, than anything else. The amount of people that run like mad to my local LGSs every time my local LGSs to all the local game stores near me whenever a new set of Pokemon comes out is insane. I think that's just ridiculous. But I mean, that's not my game and that's not my jam. Maybe I just don't get that one, but
everything else, every other product that I can get my hands on, and these Pokemon continues to be impossible to get, regardless how long I've been in this stupid business. But anyway, another rant for another day. But I used to complain about
I
Pokemon,
don't
but at
care.
least Pokemon kind of makes sense with how they create their products, because everything contains just booster packs. So any old booster pack, you can get the best card. You have a chance, no matter what, to get that best card. And so everything flies off the shelf. So whether it be these EX decks, whether it be this ETB, whether it be anything, then the product sells because it's all pegged to the booster pack. Whereas now that Wizard of the Coast has done the opposite, where only the cool things can come out of the collector boosters, then this stuff is just so at the mercy of basically
Is that true
utility
though?
before this stuff starts to sell.
Are
Or in
you
the case
just
of Final
speaking?
Fantasy, it's like, and that still isn't like a feel good purchase. It isn't like,
I feel like he's really just speaking out of his ass though. Because again, like, it's very rare, I think, that they have only this card in only the collector booster. I mean, even you look at Unfinity, for example. I was shocked that Unfinity actually has shock lands in it. Am I likely going to pull an insane shock land with like a crazy art treatment in a draft pack? No. But have I pulled a shock land from a draft pack of Unfinity? Yes. So I mean, is that set too old to be counted in what he's discussing now? Maybe. But again, I really don't see it. I don't think that's the case. Like I've seen people I'm just letting him rant in the background while he's on mute, but I've seen people like um pull lots of great stuff from play boosters in Dragonstorm or Tarkir. They didn't have to pull from the collector boosters to get the Ugin or to get the Elspeth, for example. What is going on with this video now? All I did was mute you. You shouldn't be going this crazy. Let's see if I advance it a bit. Maybe it'll be better. If not, I'm just gonna call it here because I mean his argument really is starting to fall apart as far as I'm concerned. Like, if this is the attitude of the player base, then yes, the game is dead. But I mean, is that my experience? No. What did I do to the volume of this? Huh. Weird. That is so weird. I don't know how I messed that up. Just by muting it. I mean, if you're interested in seeing the rest of his argument, by all means, I would suggest that you go out of your way to find this video and look for it. I'm going to refresh just to give him one chance. Because I do feel kind of bad cutting off his argument midway through. But I really just don't think he's got anything left for us. It's going to be an ad. It's still recording. I am still recording and my mic is still working, so it's not on my end in that regard. It's something to do with YouTube. Huh. Maybe my internet stopped being super available. I don't know. I'm kind of over this though. I thought that he was on to something really cool there for a minute at the beginning of that video. And I'm just going to summarize my argument that I had based on what I was watching because yeah, we're not getting this back clearly. I'm just going to close that because it's annoying me that it dropped off. I don't know why it dropped off. And I'm just going to do a final pack of Brothers War for you guys, although I doubt we're going to do any better than that. But I did promise you 3, so I will open the 3rd. And summarize my argument. My argument is this. Wizards of the Coast sucks. They make a wonderful card game, but they have squandered said card game and turned it into something that it wasn't. It is driven by profits now. It's not driven by gameplay. And as long as it's driven by profits, there's going to be a focus on 2 things. And as I said, those 2 things are basically getting a whole bunch of extra sets out and making sure that they can increase the prices while decreasing the costs. So that's why, for example, you've heard people complain endlessly, and I mean, I've complained about it. Pringling is an issue. I mean, you look at this card, that's got a little bit of a pringling to it, but not nearly as bad as, say, something that you might pull today out of a pack could be. Tarkir wasn't too bad, but like some of the other sets that have happened recently were pretty bad for pringling. So, as far as I'm concerned, the issue is we're printing way too many sets, way too quickly, and those sets are being developed to um, force people to buy those sets. They're being developed to the extent that they're going to do everything they can to make a collector's booster something that a collector will want by putting in all kinds of crazy artwork, by bringing back cards that they said they wouldn't put into packs again. They're going to probably do that soon, I would wager. Um, by bringing back cards they know that people need that are scarce already, like they did with Jewel Lotus before it got banned, and like they did with Dockside Extortionist before it got banned, and Mana Crypt before it got banned. Uh, I'm pretty sure Mana Crypt was the 3rd one. If I'm wrong about Mana Crypt, I've said Mana Crypt like 100 times in this episode. Just replace Mana Crypt with whatever the actual card was that was banned. I'm pretty sure it was Mana Crypt. Anyways, so my point being that Wizards of the Coast is going to do whatever it takes to get people to buy the collector boosters, sure. He is right about that. Are they doing whatever it takes to drive people over to collector boosters? I don't think so. Because while they are definitely going to get more money off of every collector booster sale, they do have to sell the other stuff. And like you said in the video, if there's a surplus of play boosters left over, then they've lost money on that product, right? So they're not trying to get people to go away from play boosters towards collector boosters. What they're trying to do is get everybody to buy both, as much of both as they can, because the more they buy of both, the more the company profits. So they're making the power of newer cards off the charts compared to older cards to the extent that you could have banned a dozen things from Tark here probably when it came out. And I bet you could ban even more from Final Fantasy. All of those Power Stones are insane. All of those Power Stones are insane. You reduce the cost of everything by one in your color. You give your color its special keyword, whether it be Vigilance or Trample or Death Touch or whatever. I think actually it might have been Menace instead of Death Touch. Anyways, and you give some sort of crazy other ability too on there. Like, those cards are nuts. Those cards are going to be broken as hell in like a month or so if they're not already. And I mean, there's a dozen other things that they probably printed in Final Fantasy that are crazy off the charts too. And that's just the way it is. That's the way they've gone, unfortunately. Is there anything we can do about it? Sure. We can all, as players and collectors, vote with our dollar and stop giving them money. Is that going to save our game? Probably not. They'll just close up shop and say screw it. At the same time, though, the one thing I will give him is this. LGSs are getting slammed by this system because they are being forced to buy way more product than they can actually afford, and then they're trying to push it onto their player base. And if they can't successfully push it onto their player base, they're going out of business. And I think the ultimate goal, and this really kind of disturbs me because, again, this actually goes towards your point. I think the ultimate goal is to remove the LGS from the system, which means that they're going to have to come up with a way, first off, Wizards of the Coast, to have an area where everybody can play. And I think they're ultimately going to come up with play locations for people where you're going to have to rent out time to go there and play Commander in their spot. And if you don't go play in their spot, then you can't compete in their tournaments, kind of thing. And if you can't compete in their tournaments, then you're not going to get the prize cards and etc. etc. So they're going to create a system where they're going to force players to go and play at their locations and pay them to be able to play their game. And I think that is the ultimate goal, and I think that's disgusting. Um, if that's not the if that's not the ultimate goal, then they're pushing profit to such an extreme that they're going to actually kill the middlemen in this business. And when they kill the middlemen in this business is going to die. They need that middleman, or they need, at the very least, somewhere for people to play if they want to keep marketing this as a playing game. And at that point, if they fail to adjust or if they fail to accommodate for the LGS's struggles, then the playability of this game is probably going to die outside of like playing at home or people who play online via spell table and stuff like that. Hell, Wizards of the Coast is probably going to start charging us for spell table at some point in the near future. But I personally feel that that's the only way the game is going to die and move to a strictly collectible thing. And at that point, I don't think it'll survive even as a strictly collectible thing, unless they flip entirely from putting print on the cards and just do full arts and stuff like that. And at that point, it's just printing like photos essentially. You know what I mean? Like there's just I think he's a little out of his depth in terms of what he's promoting in the video that we were watching, but he had a few valid points at the beginning, and I think it led to something that I think I really wanted to discuss with you guys, which is I do believe this game is going to die in the near future if we don't slow down the amount of sets that are coming out, and if we don't put a little more focus on the stuff that came before and emphasize how good it is. I think what would be a really good solution, I'm just going to start this pack, but what I think would be a really good solution is if Wizards of the Coast, that was a pretty art, if Wizards of the Coast decided to make some of their newer in-house sets, like the next set that comes after Edge of Eternities that is actually like in-universe, focused on something that is a mechanic from the past. Say, for example, I would like to see them make a focus on allies again. They should make a new commander for allies that is kick-ass and bring ally mechanic back, which would bring all those old cards back to the table. They should do something that makes a focus on walls and make an emphasis to bring walls back to the table. They kind of did with Dragonstorm with the Defender commander deck, but it's not really exactly what I'm talking about. Like, but you see what I mean? Like, there's a lot of ways to bring back the older cards and make them powerful again in this format. You just have to design the sets around them instead of designing the sets around outshining them. I'm going to leave it there as my argument, and we're just going to do this pack and cap out the video, though. Mishra's Domination. As long as you control enchanted creatures +2/+2, otherwise it can't block. Yeah, okay. Weak Stone Subjugation. Enchant artifact or creature. When it enters the battlefield, you can pay 3. If you do, tap the enchanted permanent. Enchanted permanent doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. I mean, that's fun to do if somebody's Soul Ring, but otherwise, it's not usually going to be overly helpful. Scatter Ray, 1 and a blue, counter target artifact or creature spell unless its controller pays 4. Like that. Calamity's Wake again, this time non-hollow, but always nice to have a second copy. Lay Down Arms. Exile target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of planes you control. Ooh. Its controller gains 3 life, but still, that's pretty cool in a mono white deck. Gruesome Realization. 1, 2 black, choose 1. Draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, or creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. Yeah, alright. Thran Vigil. 1 and a black. Whenever 1 or more artifact and or creature cards leave your graveyard during your turn, put a +1/+1. Oh, we got 1 copy of this before, and I thought it was an amazing card. I think I put this one in my mono black deck. Having a second one is awesome because I might put that in my zombie deck. Meticulous Excavation, 1 white, or sorry, 1 white, sorry. Pay 2 white, return target permanent you control to its owner's hand if that has an earth. Instead, exile it, then return it to its owner's hand. Yeah. Basically, it's a way that you could, like, recur things that have ETBs, but it's not terrible. I'll put it there. Elsewhere Flask. I don't think I've ever pulled one of these. 2. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Sacrifice it, choose a basic land type. Each land you control becomes that type until end of turn. I might have pulled that before, but I don't remember it. Gix Yamath Praetor! That's a hit, I think. I mean, I like the artwork for sure, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, this is a really cool card to play with, at least as a commander. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. Ouch. Pay 4 and 3 black, discard X cards, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among the exile cards this way without paying. I am probably not going to use that in any deck because that just seems way too ridiculous to me. That is like so beneficial to my opponent unless you have like you know what you need this guy to go in? You need this guy to go in that deck that has the commander that's red, blue, and black and penalizes people for drawing cards by making them take a life. And you have to draw an extra card at the beginning of your upkeep. Then you put this guy in that deck, and he becomes insane. But I mean, I don't know if I would ever play that on its own, but I think that one's worth some money, which is cool. Again, I don't really care about the money as much per se, but I know a lot of the people who tune into the videos do sometimes, so that's why I get excited sometimes for that. I do love the symbol on it. That is always one of my favorite things when they decide to print cards with the symbols in the flavor text. I love that. And like I say, the artwork's great. The cost is low. He would make a fun commander still, probably. Yeah. I don't know. Static Nest is not a great card. Enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent until this thing leaves the battlefield. And when it enters, you gain 2 life and create a tap Power Stone. I mean, the second half of the card's okay, but it's like one of those cards that I always rag about. It comes into play, it deals with the problem, but it stays on the board, and as soon as it gets dealt with, the problem comes back. So it's not really dealing with the problem, it's more like a bandage. And every bandage gets ripped off eventually. So, not my favorite. Oh, second legendary creature! And it's an angel wizard! That's neat. I've never heard of an angel wizard. Linvala Shield of the Seagate. One blue and white. Again, we are considering building a blue-white deck eventually that's going to be kind of kick-ass, or getting a Bumbleflower deck to make a blue-white-green deck. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full... Ooh, this is a party version. I have always said that I don't play party because I don't have a commander that is worthwhile playing party. This might be it. Flying 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, choose a target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Until your next turn, it can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. Sacrifice her. Choose hexproof or indestructible creatures you control gain that ability until end of turn. I don't know whether I'd actually build a commander deck around her for party, but I do like that extra ability she has at the end there. That's pretty neat. Still, though, if you're going to build her, she has to be party for sure. Because, now a party requires, if I remember correctly, a party requires a soldier, a wizard, a rogue, and a cleric to be full. I'm not sure if I have any decks that actually have enough of all four of those to work, but I probably could build a commander deck around her out of blue and white. It'd be better if it was blue, white, black, though. I will admit that. Or blue, white, even blue, white, red I would take. Blue, white, green, she'd be okay in there probably, but I think blue, white, and black or blue, white, red would be better if we could have got an extra color onto her. Still though, that makes 4 legendaries in 3 packs, which is pretty awesome. We pulled a couple of extra stuff that was pretty nice. Overall, I think we had a pretty good discussion, and that is pretty much all I have for you guys today. For a minute there, I thought the video had cut off midway through and I was going to cry. Give you guys a shot of Kaiba as we go out, who is still giving me that sad eye like, Daddy, this isn't fair. Life isn't fair. I know, buddy. Alright, guys. Much love to you all from Kaiba and I to you. Take care. And we hope you enjoyed this response video. And enjoy the rest of your Monday.